WLW Radio and WLW Color Television cordially welcomes you to Ruth Lyons' fabulous 50-50 Club.
Well, it's time for the 50-50 Club. Yes, it's time to relax, sing a song, and have some fun. Forget for a while your troubles. We'll try to turn them all into bubbles. It's great to meet you.
It's charming to greet you
For the Monday session of the 50-50 Club.
And now here she is, the star of the show, the fabulous Ruth Lyons.
They say her program was only seen in 4 cities, but it became the highest-rated daytime TV show in America.
An artist would die to be on the show because if you're on the show, you'd make it.
They say, well, you've got to do Ruth Lyons. That's the only one that really affects our business. Doesn't matter. You can do, you know, the Tonight Show or whatever, but Ruth Lyons puts butts on seats, you know.
They say she couldn't sing, yet 5 major record companies fought each other to release her recordings.
The words are lovely, and the melody is beautiful, and it's just budding Cole Porter, words and the music.
They say she was idolized by millions of Midwestern housewives, but she repeatedly put her career on the line to speak out for equality and civil rights.
Long before Martin was marching in Birmingham and Selma, long before turmoil in the South, reverse freedom riders, but the real civil rights movement had not yet begun to lift off, and she was already out there banging the door.
And she was the first woman to really be out in front in the television industry.
And that's why they say Ruth Lyons was the first lady of television. They say, oh, you should have been there. Over the years, I've heard that comment hundreds of times from friends and colleagues, even celebrities who worked with Ruth Lyons. I'm Nancy James. Like millions of other girls in the Midwest, I would have loved the chance to sit next to Ruth Lyons on her famous rocking love seat, perhaps as a guest, or even as one of the cast members of her 50-50 Club. Well, I came close. I was actually hired on the show as a singer. But by that time, Ruth had long been retired. Still, her presence seemed to be everywhere in the studio she once ruled. It was alive, almost three-dimensional. And like all legends, even if we didn't know her personally, we knew her story. Born October 4th, 1905, in Cincinnati's East End, Ruth Evelyn Reeves' skill as a musician brought her through the back door of the infant radio industry in 1925. 4 years later, when the regular host of the show called The Woman's Hour didn't show up, WKRC pressed Ruth into service as an emergency substitute. Tossing caution and a carefully prepared script to the winds, young Ruth literally talked her way into a new career. In 1932, Ruth Reeves became Ruth Lyons. Although the marriage would end 7 years later, Ruth would keep the name as her professional identity for the rest of her life. When the Ohio River flooded its banks in 1937, leaving nearly 1 out of every 8 people homeless, Ruth went into action, manning WKRC's mics for a 5-day marathon of emergency broadcasts. When the waters receded, she carried a new level of credibility with her listeners. Thousands now believed if Ruth Lyons said it, it must be so. As America was preparing for war, Ruth was preparing to make major changes in her life. Off the air, she married Herman Newman, who later became a professor at the University of Cincinnati. Professionally, Ruth left WKRC when a $10 raise lured her to one of the nation's largest radio outlets, placing Ruth Lyons on the threshold of an incomparable career. With her new job, Ruth gained much more than an extra $10 per week. WSAI was part of Crosley Broadcasting, owners of the most listened to radio station in America, WLW. Known to millions as the Nation Station, industry insiders call the Cincinnati powerhouse the Cradle of the Stars. Eddie Albert, Red Barber, Rosemary Clooney, Doris Day, Rod Serling, Fats Waller, Red Skelton, Andy Williams, and dozens of others all honed their talents here. By the late 1930s, nearly 60 national shows originated from WLW every week.
It was the big time. WLW Radio had started as a fine, creative radio station, and that spilled over to the television when it came along.
When I joined, there were 4 or 5 bands that worked there, like 110 union musicians. Joe Luger had a 50-piece band that fed the NBC network every Sunday morning. Esther Hanley had a band, and Cliff Flash had a band. And then there were a bunch of smaller groups that played. I mean, and then you had all the country and western people. I bet they had 100 of those people floating around, doing Midwestern Hayride and other shows. So it was an outstanding and exciting place to work when they were live 20 hours a day. You know, it was unbelievable.
It was the best possible place for someone on the way up, with talent, drive, and ambition. Someone like Ruth Lyons. By February 1946, when she debuted her 50 Club on WLW, the station's management and engineers were laying the groundwork for a television service that would also blanket much of the Midwest.
It's interesting if you look at the pattern, the coverage pattern of the television stations they eventually purchased for the Crosley network. WWC in Columbus, WLWD in Dayton, WLWI in Indianapolis, and of course Cincinnati. It replicates the strongest daytime coverage of the radio station WLW.
With WLW's 4 TV stations, Ruth Lyons could be heard and seen by millions of Midwestern housewives every day. At first, it was a challenge she looked forward to.
Well, you know, I've been talking about television. We're gonna have television here, you know. As soon as Arthur gets his face lifted, we're gonna start. On Arthur. And I said how we'd have to be careful. We can't have our slips. Sit down, Arthur. I'm not talking to you. We can't have our slips showing, and we can't have runs in our stockings or anything, you know. You gotta look your best.
But when she brought her 50 Club to TV for the first time on April 19, 1948, the problems seemed to dwarf the promise. Instead of an elegant lunch followed by a broadcast from the Gibson Hotel, an audience of 50 women was herded into a drab, concrete block building, grandly dubbed Mount Olympus. Broiling underneath rows of hot lights overhead and narrowly dodging tangles of cable underfoot, the ladies didn't find the off-screen accommodations audience-friendly.
Oh my God, what a mess that was. And of course, it was hard for the ladies to get there, and Ruth hated the studio. I remember so many of my friends said, oh my God, if you can only get me out of this place. Everything was wrong. And you had to run around the cables and the cameras. It was just a mess.
For that matter, the star of the show wasn't happy with what she saw on screen.
She lost weight. See, Ruth was very heavy when
she saw herself.
Yes, she was very, very heavy. And boy, she went, when television came on, the first time she saw herself on television, you remember that?
I remember this. Oh,
boy. She said, boy, this is it. And she lost the weight, and she never gained it back.
whatever you want to make it be.
We'll have a lot of fun, you will agree. And we'll show you a thing or two, yes sirree. Down at the 50 Club, all you kids at home can join the party. Pull your chairs up close and eat a party.
Every day when the clock strikes 12 o'clock.
By the time the fun begins, so throw away your every dog and care. All the music will keep bubbling on the
Although she didn't want the job, Ruth was named as WLWT's first program director, which also made her one of the nation's first women executives in television. Adding new programs and personnel, she also made an intensive study of the new medium, and soon reached a conclusion that would serve her well for nearly 20 years.
Ruth did not want a camera between her and the audience. She felt, and she felt this very strongly, it was improper for you to get that, to break that symbiosis simply for a technical reason, which is you want to get the tighter close-up or you want to get the better angle. She thought that that was less important than the contact she had with her audience and her ability to sweep out to them, walk up into the audience with them, talk to them, throw that flowered microphone in their face, and talk to them individually. She wanted the people at home to sense that community of audience and performer and to eavesdrop on that, to be someone who was a guest while we were having a party at noon every day. And she did not want anything technical to come between her. And it was a big battle. The constant battle, as you can well imagine. But she won.
Dayton here, Columbus. Troy, where's Troy? Xenia. Salina. Washington Courthouse.
Brookville, Indiana.
Where?
Brookville, Indiana.
Brookville, Indiana.
Harrison High.
Harrison, Ohio. Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Bell Fountain. Well, I think I've called enough trains, don't you?
That kind of devoted multi-city following drew the attention of NBC. Wasting no time, the network signed Ruth to a 7-year contract. Building her up with glamour shots, press releases, and publicity, Ruth Lyons became the first woman to host a national daytime talk show in America.
Well, now, let's see. This is what? Is this Thursday or Friday? This is Thursday.
This is Thursday, the 1st of March.
Oh, I knew it was 1st of March, but I didn't know whether it was Thursday or Friday.
Ruth and co-host Willie Thal weren't the only ones confused about the day and date of this 50 Club. The coast-to-coast coaxial cable needed for national coverage wasn't yet in place. Many stations west of Chicago weren't able to carry network programs live. As a result, the 50 Club was often seen only in smeary, fuzzy kinescopes. These films were shipped or bicycled from one city to another, arriving several days or even weeks after the original broadcast. The lag time made the program seem painfully dated, and stations often ran the show whenever they felt like it.
And instead of the network playing it at noon every day like we were on every day, they would tape the show, or at that time was kinescoping it. They might play, in Tulsa might play it at 8 in the morning one day and 10 in the morning the next, and bounced all over the place.
I thought maybe you might sometime mention to your mother about these lovely little princess phones. They're small, they're very attractive. The little
and her style of delivering commercials was totally unorthodox. She ad-libbed them, no scripts.
It's perfect, honest-to-goodness cream. No synthetic deal. Real cream in the handiest, smartest idea that's been evolved in a long time. In a can to be kept right in the refrigerator, cold. All you do is remove that nice plastic top that seals so that you get it fresh. Press it with one finger. Always shake it a little first. Press it, and you have mountains of luscious whipped cream for your pies and puddings and cakes and everything delicious. Mary, take that, and also...
National advertisers and network officials were irritated by Ruth's unwillingness to read their copy or run their filmed commercials.
She used to laugh about the client's commercial script. She said, "Oh, look at this. Oh, ladies, you'll love this product. It'll make your clothes so white you'll dance around the laundry room." She said, "People don't dance around the laundry." She says, "It's good. It gets your clothes clean. That's all you want. Use it. Thank you very much." And on she went.
Do you ever stop and think how difficult it is to say anything new about a mop? Now, I mean, that's ridiculous. How carried away can you get over a mop?
Yeah.
You just can't.
No,
you can
can't
state
say
facts, and you can say this is why we think this is the best mop on the market and so forth, but you just can't go into superlatives all the time. However, with your Lynn mop, you do have something that I think you don't realize, and that is this. It has so many other uses other than just mopping floors.
Yes,
now,
it does.
Today we shall discuss washing automobiles.
In 1952, NBC started steering potential sponsors away from the 50 Club in an effort to save a new show, one that represented a major investment for the network.
But the big problem was, I found out later when I worked with NBC, is that during that period of time was when the Today Show started. And the network was trying to make it look good, and they kept forcing commercials off of shows like Lyons onto the Today Show to make it look like it was going to work, because that's when NBC got the big idea news will be the big important thing. And they kept trying to get and sell. They weren't really trying to sell her show.
I see.
They would spend all their time selling Today Show. I found that out later after I got with NBC itself.
For Ruth, this was the last straw.
And that sort of oured everybody at the station. And when our contract year was in, you're usually supposed to wait for the network to see if they're going to renew you. The last day, Lyons called NBC and said, I'm not going to be on the network next year. I don't want to do that anymore. And that shocked them because they're so used to them telling you you're not going to be on. So she automatically canceled herself off the network.
As she told a reporter, the network didn't fire me. I fired the network.
One of the reasons that it did not work as well as it should have was they didn't listen to her. They were doing all the things she told them not to do, putting cameras between her and the audience, making all of the commercials pre-recorded, doing all the things she said that they shouldn't do. So she couldn't fit into their straitjacket when it came time to do a network program. Instead, they should have just taken a shot of what she was doing down there and left it alone.
Although she may not have realized it at the time, Ruth Lyons was about to transform herself into a national force to be reckoned with and the most sought-after woman in American television.